Have you ever wondered how some people make money online while they sleep? The truth is, in 2026, more people than ever are building online side hustles that generate hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars every single month. And the best part? Have you ever wondered how some people make money online while they sleep? The truth is, in 2026, more people than ever are building online side hustles that generate hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars every single month. And the best part? You know exactly the kind of truck I'm talking about. The massive, shining vehicle with chrome everywhere, giant tires, leather seats, and enough technology inside to look like a luxury spaceship on wheels. These trucks often cost $70,000, sometimes even more. When you see one on the road, it's hard not to wonder how someone could possibly afford something that expensive. Because if you run the numbers in your head, the math simply doesn't make sense. The average person's salary doesn't seem high enough to comfortably support a vehicle like that. And here's the part that really makes this situation confusing. The person driving that expensive truck might actually make less money than you do, which raises an obvious question. How are regular people somehow managing to afford car payments that seem completely disconnected from their actual income? The answer turns out to be far more complicated than you might expect. There is an entire financial system designed to make these massive purchases appear surprisingly affordable. Understanding how this system works is incredibly important, because it explains not only how people buy these vehicles, but also why so many drivers struggle financially afterward. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers themselves are shocking. The average monthly payment for a new car in America has reached levels that would have seemed absurd just a decade ago. Today, the average new car payment is over $700 per month. And that number isn't for luxury cars or exotic sports vehicles. That is simply the national average. When you look specifically at trucks and SUVs, which have become extremely popular in recent years, those monthly payments often climb even higher. It's incredibly common to see payments around $900 per month for larger vehicles. And the best part, and in many cases, especially for premium trucks, those monthly payments can exceed $1,200 every single month. When you multiply that payment over several years, the numbers become truly staggering. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars spent simply to drive a vehicle. And remember, these loans often last 6, 7, or even 8 years, meaning the buyer will be making payments for almost a decade. By the time the loan is finished, many drivers have paid far more than the original price of the vehicle. At the same time, the vehicle itself is rapidly losing value as newer models enter the market and the car accumulates mileage. In fact, the moment a brand new vehicle leaves the dealership lot, it immediately begins depreciating in value. So if these purchases make so little financial sense, the obvious question becomes how dealerships are convincing so many people to sign these massive loans. The answer lies in the way car sales are structured, where the focus is rarely on the total price and almost always on one number that buyers pay the most attention to. When people walk into a dealership, the salesperson rarely talks about the full price of the vehicle. Instead, the entire conversation quickly shifts toward a single number, the monthly payment. For most buyers, the monthly payment becomes the only number that matters. If that payment seems small enough to fit inside their budget, the rest of the financial details often fade into the background. Dealerships know this psychology extremely well. By adjusting the length of the loan, they can manipulate the monthly payment until it looks comfortable to the buyer sitting across the desk. Car loans that once lasted 3 or 4 years have slowly expanded over time, turning into 6, 7, or even 8-year financial commitments. In some cases, lenders are even offering 10-year car loans, which is an incredibly long time to be making payments on something that continuously loses value. By extending the loan length, the monthly payment becomes smaller and easier to accept, even though the buyer is committing to years of additional financial obligation. For example, a truck that would require a $1,500 monthly payment over 4 years might only require $900 per month over 8 years. That lower payment feels easier to manage, but the total cost of the vehicle increases dramatically over the life of the loan. Instead of paying $72,000 for the vehicle, the buyer may end up paying $86,000 or even more once interest and extended payments are included. While all of this is happening, the vehicle itself is steadily losing value, creating a financial imbalance that many buyers don't fully understand until years later. Vehicles are one of the fastest depreciating assets most people will ever own, losing a significant portion of their value during the first few years. This means that many buyers quickly find themselves in a situation where they owe more money on their loan than the vehicle is worth on the market. This situation is known as negative equity, and it traps millions of drivers because selling the vehicle would require paying additional money to cover the remaining loan balance. Another powerful tool dealerships use to encourage large purchases is promotional financing, especially those attention-grabbing advertisements promising 0% interest. At first glance, 0% financing sounds like an incredible deal, almost like free money being offered to anyone who wants to buy a brand new vehicle. But in many cases, the cost of that financing is already built into the vehicle's price, meaning buyers often pay more for the car itself. Typically, buyers must choose between a lower purchase price with interest or a higher purchase price with 0% financing. And qualifying for those promotional interest rates often requires extremely strong credit scores that many buyers simply do not have. For buyers with average credit, the interest rates on these long car loans can add thousands of dollars to the total cost of the vehicle. And this is where another major factor enters the picture, the trade-in cycle, which quietly keeps many buyers trapped in an endless loop of car debt. After a few years, many drivers become tired of their current vehicle. Maybe they want a newer model, more technology, or simply something that feels exciting again. The problem is that many of these drivers still owe a large amount of money on their current car loan when they decide they want to upgrade. Instead of forcing the buyer to pay off the remaining balance, dealerships often offer a seemingly convenient solution. They simply roll the remaining debt from the old vehicle into the new loan for the next car. This means the buyer is no longer just paying for their new vehicle, they are also paying for part of the previous one they already traded away. Over time, this can create a strange situation where a person is effectively paying for 2 or even 3 vehicles at the same time. Financially, this situation begins to resemble a hamster wheel, where the person keeps running faster but never actually escapes the cycle of debt. For dealerships, this cycle works extremely well because it creates customers who return again and again for another vehicle purchase. Every few years, buyers are tempted by a newer model with upgraded features, better technology, or simply a design that looks more exciting. The emotional excitement of driving something new often overshadows the financial reality hiding behind the loan agreement. Modern car advertisements rarely focus on transportation. Instead, they sell adventure, success, confidence, and the idea that your vehicle represents who you are. The message is subtle but powerful. If you drive the right vehicle, people will see you as successful, capable, and impressive. This emotional marketing makes it easier for buyers to justify extremely large payments that would otherwise feel financially irresponsible. When people believe they are buying status or identity rather than transportation, the monthly payment suddenly feels like an investment in themselves. But eventually, those payments must fit somewhere inside the buyer's real monthly budget. For many households, the solution is to reorganize their entire financial life around the car payment. Some people move to smaller apartments or delay major life decisions simply to keep up with the cost of their vehicle. Others cut everyday expenses dramatically, eating cheaper meals or skipping vacations just to maintain their expensive transportation. In some cases, people even take second jobs specifically to cover their vehicle expenses and keep up with the monthly payments. Ironically, some drivers end up using their expensive truck to deliver food or drive for ride-sharing services just to earn the money needed to pay for that same truck. When a car payment becomes extremely large, it often starts dominating the entire household budget. Instead of being just another expense, the vehicle payment becomes the central financial obligation around which everything else must adjust. For many families, the car payment becomes almost like a second rent payment. Every other expense has to shrink just to make room for that single transportation cost. When money becomes tight, some drivers start using credit cards to cover everyday vehicle expenses like fuel, insurance, or maintenance. Using high-interest credit cards to support a large car payment may work temporarily, but it quietly creates another layer of debt that grows over time. Maintenance costs can quickly become another financial shock, especially with modern trucks and SUVs that contain extremely complex technology. Even a simple brake replacement on a modern truck can cost close to $1,000 depending on the model and parts required. If something major goes wrong, like transmission or engine problems, the repair bill can easily climb into the thousands. Many drivers who already struggle with their monthly payment have no emergency funds set aside to handle these repairs. As a result, repairs are often added to credit cards or financed through additional loans, pushing the driver deeper into long-term debt. What started as a manageable payment slowly turns into a complicated financial burden that stretches across multiple parts of their budget. Fuel costs create another ongoing expense that many buyers underestimate when they first purchase a large truck or SUV. Large trucks often consume far more fuel than smaller vehicles, especially when driven daily for commuting or long distances. Depending on driving habits and fuel prices, gasoline alone can easily cost several $100s per month. When you combine fuel, insurance, and maintenance, the true cost of owning a large vehicle becomes much higher than the original loan payment. In many households, the situation becomes even more complicated because families often own multiple vehicles at the same time. It is increasingly common for a household to have 2 or even 3 car payments running simultaneously. One person may drive a truck for work, while another drives an SUV for family transportation. Sometimes a third vehicle appears for a teenager or for weekend activities, adding even more financial pressure. Each additional vehicle increases insurance costs, maintenance expenses, and fuel consumption for the entire household. Insurance alone for expensive trucks and SUVs can easily exceed $200 per month per vehicle. For households with multiple vehicles, insurance costs can reach $500 per month or more. Managing several car payments at once can start to feel like running a small financial operation inside the household. People become experts at juggling due dates, loan balances, and minimum payments just to keep everything from collapsing. But while they focus on managing each payment individually, they often lose sight of the total financial picture. Every vehicle they own continues to lose value over time while still demanding monthly payments. This means the household may be spending enormous amounts of money on assets that are steadily becoming less valuable every year. From a financial planning perspective, this situation can quietly destroy long-term wealth. The true cost of owning these vehicles includes far more than just the monthly loan payment. Insurance, fuel, maintenance, depreciation, and financing all combine to create a much larger financial commitment than most buyers expect. And the best part, and the best part, and the best part? Let's take a moment to look at the real numbers behind a typical truck purchase, because the total financial impact becomes much clearer once everything is calculated together. Imagine someone buying a truck that costs about $55,000 with a long 7-year loan. Their monthly payment might look reasonable at first glance, perhaps around $800 per month, depending on the loan terms and interest rate. But over 7 years of payments, those $800 installments add up to a very large amount of money. By the time the loan is fully paid, the driver may have spent around $67,000 just on the purchase price and financing. Next, we add insurance, which for an expensive truck can easily reach $250 per month. Over 7 years, that insurance alone can total more than $20,000. Fuel costs must also be included because large trucks consume significant amounts of gasoline. If fuel averages around $350 per month, that adds roughly $29,000 over 7 years. Maintenance and repairs will also appear over time, especially as the vehicle ages and parts begin to wear out. Over several years, these maintenance costs can easily reach $15,000 or more, depending on how the vehicle is used. When you combine loan payments, insurance, fuel, and maintenance, the real cost of owning that truck becomes surprisingly large. In this example, the driver may end up spending more than $130,000 on transportation over 7 years. And after all that spending, the truck might only be worth around $15,000 by the end of that period. From a financial perspective, this represents a huge amount of money spent on something that steadily loses value. Now imagine a completely different scenario where that same monthly payment was invested instead. If someone invested $800 per month into a simple index fund earning around 8% annually, the outcome would look very different. After 7 years, that investment account could grow to more than $70,000. Instead of losing wealth through depreciation and expenses, that person would actually be building financial security. This comparison reveals the hidden opportunity cost of expensive vehicle purchases. Yet despite these numbers, many drivers remain emotionally attached to their vehicles. The vehicle becomes part of their identity, representing success, independence, and personal achievement. When a car represents status and identity, rational financial analysis becomes much harder. People often defend their vehicle choices passionately because admitting the financial mistake can feel like admitting personal failure. The automotive industry understands this psychology extremely well and designs its marketing around these emotional triggers. That's why dealerships focus heavily on monthly payments rather than the total cost of ownership. By the time buyers realize the full financial impact of their decision, they are already locked into years of payments. Meanwhile, the person driving a reliable used vehicle may actually be building far more wealth behind the scenes. Sometimes, The smartest financial decision isn't the flashiest one, but the one that quietly protects your future. So the next time you see someone driving a massive luxury truck that costs more than your house, remember something important. Financial freedom rarely looks flashy, but it always looks peaceful.